morning, Illuminate Youth. Glad to be speaking with you all again, bringing you a mini message for this week. And as we get started, I have a question for you. Who are your ride or dies? Who are those friends that are going to stick with you through the thick and through the thin? So this week I was watching a movie called Shark Tale. Don't know if you've seen it. First off, hilarious movie. Highly recommend it. But there is this scene where the lead character, Oscar, who just happens to be a fish because the movie's called Shark Tale, Oscar his whole life wanted to be a somebody. He wanted fame and fortune. He wanted to live in a fancy house, have a bunch of fancy friends. And through a bunch of details that we don't have time to get into, Oscar happens to find his way to being a somebody. He gets all the fame, the fortune, the penthouse. He has a ton of friends around him, people that are hanging all over him, singing his praises, always hanging out at his house. But there's this scene in the movie where Oscar gets in a fight with one of his old friends, someone who had been with him since the beginning. And Oscar's really troubled because they had this fight and it was all Oscar's fault. Oscar was being a jerk. And so Oscar is out on his balcony of this penthouse, and one of his new friends comes outside and says, "Oscar, what's up? What's wrong?" And Oscar says, "I don't have any friends." And this person replied, "Well, Oscar, all your friends are inside. Like, let's go inside." He goes, "No, those aren't my real friends." See, Oscar realized what a real friend was through that experience. I know for many of us, we might laugh because it's a movie, and I get it. The movie's funny. It's kind of supposed to be a satire. But I was thinking this week, there's a lot of song lyrics that actually are similar to that as well. And there's a song by Drake, it's called 9. And here's what Drake says in this song. It says, "I got it right now, so I'm everybody's friend. If I ever lose, I bet we never speak again." And so this is a real thing. This is a real emotion, a real feeling that people have. And maybe you've even experienced it in your own life where you've had a friend or you've had a relationship and they were just in it to get something out of you. And as soon as the relationship no longer fulfills that desire of theirs, they just peace out, they just leave. And I bring that up because what we see here at the end of Colossians is really a lesson on friendship, which is interesting because Paul doesn't actually talk about friendship at all here in Colossians chapter 4. But he does talk a lot about his friends, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from this. And so I'm going to go ahead and just read a verse, and I want to just kind of talk about what I see going on here. So the verse I want to read is Colossians 4:7, and it says this: "Tychicus," which is actually how you say that word, Tychicus, fun word to say, "will tell you all about my activities. He is a beloved brother and a faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord." He is a beloved brother, faithful minister, and fellow servant in the Lord. And this is just one of many people that Paul talks about here in the last few verses of Colossians. He goes on to name a bunch of other ones. And these are people that had been serving with Paul. Paul had been serving with them. Paul at this point in time is in prison, and these are people who have been visiting Paul in prison, people who have been writing him letters, staying connected with him. Paul's been writing them letters. And the reason I point that out is because Paul was in a Roman prison because he was a Christian. He was awaiting a trial that eventually would lead to the end of his life. And so for these people to be associating with Paul, writing him, visiting him in prison, meant that they were willing to lay down their lives to continue this friendship. Those are some real, true friends. And at the end of the day, we need relationships like that. We need solid Christian friendships that are based on nothing else but just love for one another. And it's really sweet because we are made to be relational beings. I don't think anyone would argue with that. We are made for relationships. But what I find really cool about that fact is the reason why is because we are made in the image of God. See, God has existed for all of eternity in a relationship. That's the point of the Trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit living in perfect community with each other. And so we have that desire because we are made in God's image. But more than just needing friends, more than just needing relationships, we need the right friends. We need the right relationships. We need friends like Paul has, not friends like Oscar, my fish buddy has. See, when I finally began walking with the Lord, I had some really close Christian friends in my life. In truth, if it wasn't for these friends picking me up to take me to church, sharing worship music with me, encouraging in my faith, calling me out when I was being an idiot, for lack of better words, if it wasn't for those friends, I don't know that I would have made it in my faith. I don't know that I would have been able to walk with the Lord the same way. And so I encourage you guys, we're not meant to walk this Christian walk alone. We're meant to do it with other people. And there's so many verses in the Bible that back this up. But I just want to read a couple that kind of stood out to me that I thought were interesting. So here's the first one. It's Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 10. And it says, 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. I love that because the reality is, guys, we are going to fall in life. Life is not always going to be easy. Things are going to knock us down. And if we don't have solid friends around us, we're going to have to try to get up on our own, and it's not going to be pretty. The next one, Proverbs 27:9, says, a sweet friendship refreshes the soul. I think so many of you can probably relate to that. When you hang out with those good friends and you're just laughing, you're enjoying each other, you can call them if you need anything. It is refreshing to your soul. Then the next two are kind of warnings about having bad friends or bad relationships. First one's 1 Corinthians 15:33, and it says, bad company corrupts good character. Like your mama said, you got to be careful who you hang out with. And then Proverbs 18:24 says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. Look, we can make a lot of excuses about why we don't have good friends. And this also isn't saying that we aren't trying to have people who aren't necessarily Christians or aren't good friends. Those relationships are important because we want to be ministering to those people, but you have to have your circle. You got to have that inner group of people that are your ride or dies that you can go to, and those need to be solid Christian people. But at the end of the day, it's not just about you finding those people and expecting them to do all the work. You can make a lot of excuses why you don't have those friends, but at the end of the day, I want to encourage you that you need to first and foremost be that friend for other people. See, if you want solid friends in your life who care about you, who will be with you through thick or thin, at the end of the day, you got to hold your end of that friendship as well, because it's not just one way. What I love about this is Paul actually is an example of that here. He points out here in chapter 4 at the end of this book, he mentions a guy named Epaphras. And if you remember Epaphras, Paul actually mentions him at the beginning of Colossians. In fact, he was most likely the preacher at this church in Colossians. And see, what's cool is Paul is writing this letter because he loves Epaphras and he wants to encourage Epaphras' church. It's something Paul is doing to pour out to him. And what we realize here at the end is Epaphras had actually gone to visit Paul in prison. And so see, the relationship wasn't one-sided. Epaphras didn't just go visit Paul and Paul was like, sweet, thanks for visiting me. I need that encouragement. Now go on your way. No, Paul returned the favor. Paul is in prison. He doesn't need to be writing letters to anyone. But Paul takes the time to write a letter to Epaphras' church to return the favor, to iron sharpen iron. Epaphras showed Paul love and Paul wants to show Epaphras love. Not out of obligation, but that's what true friendship looks like. You guys bear one another's burdens. And so my question for you is, what friendships are you going to invest in this week? What is that friend that you know that you need to call, that you need to text, that you need to Snapchat or hop on Xbox with? What friendships do you need to invest in, maybe even reinitiate this week? Look, one of the biggest mistakes I made in high school, and I made a lot of mistakes in high school, was I took friendships for granted. Not all of them were good friendships, but there were some solid people in my life, and I just didn't care about the relationship. I just kind of used the friendship, and as soon as it kind of didn't suit me anymore, I just let it go. And some of them even just died off, but I didn't choose to reinitiate them. My prayer for you guys, my challenge for you guys is find some solid Christian friends, reach out to them, and invest in that relationship. Be the one who initiates it, be the one who invests in it, and find people who will do the same for you. We have to walk in community together. I hope this blesses you guys. I hope you guys take this challenge seriously and you guys have even better conversations in your small groups. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. Reach out if you need anything.